My name is Brandon, and I'm an alcoholic and addict. Today, I want to talk about what happens when you get into a rut in your recovery. And so, I've been in recovery now from addiction for about a year and 4 months. And during that time, I've gone through periods where I have felt in a rut, where my thinking sometimes goes back to the same kind of thinking that I had in my addiction. So when I'm in those situations where I'm starting to get grumpy, irritable, build up resentments toward people, where I start blaming others for my own discomfort in life, I have to start asking myself some questions. So the first question that I ask is, am I going to support meetings regularly? It's a very important part of my recovery, and what I've noticed is that usually if I go 3 days without a support meeting, that's when I start to feel a little off. Sometimes it's difficult to make that happen depending on everything else that you've got going on in your life. So you really got to be cognizant of what's happening in your life and trying to work in your regular meetings and getting on a consistent schedule so you don't get in a situation where all of a sudden you find yourself feeling a little off, and you look back and realize it's been a week since I've been to a meeting, since I've communed with other people who suffer this same condition. So that's one important part. The other thing that I have to ask myself is, am I doing the daily work of my program? Do I even have a daily routine or daily work that I do? And that's why, for me, a routine is so important for recovery. I have to get up every morning and do this video, do my prayer and meditation, and then every night I have to sit and do my inventory and have this daily structure that both starts and ends my day so that I don't have to ask this particular question. So that I know that my daily routine is solid. I'm doing this work every single day. Now, you also have to look at, is there anything missing from that daily routine? One thing that's been missing for me recently has been regular exercise. We hear this all the time, but it's difficult for some people to get in the habit of doing regular exercise. And I'm one of those people. Once I get in the habit, I can usually keep it going. But it's hard for me to get that habit going sometimes. So recently I was in a rut. I started to exercise, and all of a sudden some things started changing. My stress levels went down a little bit. I was able to look at things in a little bit of a different light and not be so irritable and grumpy all the time. So I've got to maintain that as part of my daily work for recovery, even though that's something that people who aren't in recovery have to maintain as well. This is really important for me in order to maintain the daily work that I do. But then the last question, and this is the one that became important to me recently, is what about the work I do outside of my daily routine? So how's that been looking? So I'm talking about the work that I do outside of just the daily routine recovery work that I do. For example, being self-aware of my thoughts and the way I'm thinking about other people. Being self-aware of how I treat other people, or how I treat myself. Am I judging other people too much? Am I expecting things of other people that I shouldn't? Am I expecting things of myself that I shouldn't? Am I treating people with kindness and respect and love? Or am I treating people as a means to an end? These are the kinds of questions that I have to consider during my daily life. Because if I'm not careful, I go back to the way of thinking that I had in my addiction. And that way of thinking was primarily selfish, driven by self-will, and used people as a way to get what I wanted. And I didn't think much past that. So this is where self-awareness comes in. And that's where I was having some problems recently. I was regularly forming resentments against folks, getting irritable, thinking ill of people around me, thinking that they weren't doing the things they should be doing. And The way that it started, the way this went down is that about a month and a half ago, I had a lot of stress in my life from a lot of different angles. It kind of all hit at once. And I started to blame other people in the world around me for the stress and discomfort that I was having in my life. So that was the first thing that happened. Then the stress decreased, and I became more aware of what I was doing. And I became aware that the blaming that I was doing of other people was inappropriate and more of a reflection of my own state in my recovery rather than an indication that they should be doing things differently. And I knew that I was in kind of a funk, but I could not figure out how to get out of it. So after a couple real weeks, I realized I needed to get back to the minute-to-minute work of evaluating my thoughts and adjusting them to ensure I'm on the right path. So of really being self-aware of what I'm thinking, the way I'm considering other people, and when I see that thought come into my head that's for instance, being upset with someone about something they do, switching that to think about things from their perspective. Or even if that's too hard, just switching it to think about how can I help this person in this moment? What can I do to help that person? And those kinds of self-awareness, and then being able to turn those thoughts on their head and do something different with them, that's the work that I was missing out on recently. And to me, that's the hard stuff in the program. That's the tiring stuff. But it's the stuff that makes a huge difference. Going to a meeting and just showing up and being at a meeting, that it takes effort. And I am not saying that's not important. But going to a meeting and sitting there and listening is a different type of work than developing self-awareness and looking at your thoughts and really working to change the way you interact with and the way you think about other people and the world around you. And to me, that minute-to-minute work that I have to do to keep myself in check, that's the hard stuff. And I had kind of forgotten about that. And I had just let myself coast. I just stopped doing that work. So it's important for us to realize when we get in a rut in recovery, ask these questions, but remember that the work is more than just prayer, meditation, going to meetings, helping other people. There's also work that we have to do to be self-aware of the way that we regard other people and the world around us. And it's important, if you're feeling like you're out of touch with your recovery, to ask yourself, are you really doing that part of the work to stay sober? And like I said, I wasn't. I was just coasting along, letting my thoughts come and go as they please, without really sitting there and going, hey, is there a different way to be thinking about this person or situation that might be more conducive to the person I want to be in recovery? As soon as I started realizing that and started to monitor my thoughts a little bit more carefully, things started getting better all over again. So I know the work I need to do. I've been doing it. Life has gotten better again. And I just needed that reminder that, hey, it's not all about the routine. It's not all about the meetings. It's not all about the prayer. It's not all about the meditation. There's other parts to this work. You can't just do all of those things and expect everything to fall into place. There's other work you got to do to make it all gel together. And I wasn't doing it. And that's why I found myself in a rut in recovery recently. So that's it for today. Tomorrow I'll probably get back to Staying Sober, the book that I've been reading from by Gorski and Miller. But in the meantime, hope you have a great day.